Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, staring at the massive alien ship that had just appeared in their sector. The vessel was unlike anything humanity had encountered before. It was crystalline and massive, reflecting the light of distant stars like a deadly jewel floating in the void. His second-in-command, Commander Ji Woo, checked the sensor readings with growing concern on her face. The communication system crackled to life. The alien spoke in perfect human language, though its voice sounded like breaking glass. It identified itself as an envoy from the Galactic Council, a coalition of 12 ancient alien civilizations that ruled most of the known galaxy. Deho had heard stories about the Council. They were old, powerful, and kept to themselves. Humanity had only recently begun exploring beyond their own solar system, and contact with the Council had been minimal and cold. The envoy's message was simple and brutal. Humanity had 30 days to surrender all military assets, submit to Council oversight, and accept permanent quarantine to their home system. They called it a protection measure. Humanity was growing too fast, advancing too quickly. The Council deemed them a developmental threat. If humanity refused, they would face corrective measures. The envoy did not explain what those measures meant, but the threat was clear in every word. Admiral Hannah, watching from Earth headquarters, ordered Deho to remain calm and professional. Ambassador Taeyang was already preparing to travel to the Council station to negotiate. Surely there was a misunderstanding. Humanity had never attacked anyone. Their expansion was peaceful. They were explorers and scientists, not conquerors. Ji Woo voiced what many were thinking. This ultimatum made no sense unless the Council feared competition rather than aggression. Days passed in tense uncertainty. Ambassador Taeyang arrived at the Council station with hopes of peaceful resolution. He brought evidence of humanity's peaceful intentions, records of their scientific achievements, and offers of cooperation. Deho watched the diplomatic channel closely, praying for good news. Instead, he witnessed horror. The Council broadcast the execution of Ambassador Taeyang across every human channel. They killed him slowly and publicly, calling it an example. The message was clear: humanity would obey or die. The galaxy watched as the Council declared humanity a threat that must be eliminated. They spoke of humanity's rapid technological advancement as dangerous. They claimed humans were aggressive and unpredictable. They said humanity would destabilize the galactic order if left unchecked. It was a death sentence dressed in political language. The Council had decided humanity must be destroyed, and they would not wait 30 days to begin. The attack came within a week. The Council Armada arrived at Titan 7, one of humanity's outer colonies. The moon was home to 3 million people, families who had built new lives among the stars. Governor Min Seo sent desperate evacuation orders, but there was not enough time. The Council ships activated weapons that humanity had never imagined possible. Planet Cracker weapons, they were called. Massive beams of energy struck Titan 7's core and the entire moon began to break apart. Deho received the distress signal as the horizon raced toward human space. He listened to the screams, the prayers, the final goodbyes. 3 million voices went silent in minutes. The moon shattered into debris, taking every soul with it. Among the dead was Deho's younger sister, Eunji. She was a xenobiologist who had spent her entire life studying alien life, trying to build bridges between species. She died believing in peace and cooperation. The Council murdered her for the crime of being human. The attacks continued. Mars Outpost Gamma was destroyed next, then Europa Station, then Ganymede Habitation Cluster. Each colony was erased with the same brutal efficiency. The Council was not just making a statement. They were committing genocide. Millions died in days. The human military tried to respond, but their weapons were primitive compared to Council technology. Every battle was a massacre. Every defense was hopeless. Humanity was being exterminated, and they were powerless to stop it. Earth's unified government convened in emergency session. President Kyung-soo faced an impossible choice. General Sang-woo, commander of Earth's defense forces, argued for immediate surrender. Perhaps if they submitted completely, the Council would spare the billions still alive on Earth and the inner colonies. It was a bitter pill, but extinction was worse. The debate raged for hours as more colonies fell and more millions died. Then, Minister of Science Hygiene spoke. She revealed something that had been kept secret for 20 years, Project Prometheus. Deep beneath Earth's oceans, hidden from satellites and spies, humanity had been developing weapons technology that violated every galactic treaty. They had done so in secret, suspecting that peaceful contact with alien civilizations might not always remain peaceful. The program had created weapons the galaxy had never seen, technologies that broke the ancient rules all other species followed. General Sang-woo protested. Using such weapons would make humanity look like the monsters the Council claimed they were. President Kyung-soo struggled with the moral weight of the decision. How could they use weapons of mass destruction and still claim to be the victims? How could they unleash such horror and maintain their humanity? Captain Daeho requested permission to speak before the Government Council. His ship had just arrived in Earth orbit. His uniform was still stained with the ash of burning colonies. His eyes were red from witnessing his sister's death. He stood before the leaders of humanity and told them the truth they needed to hear. The Council had already decided humanity's fate. They had murdered millions of civilians without warning or mercy. They had executed ambassadors who came in peace. They had broken every rule of civilized conduct. Daeho spoke of his sister, who died believing in understanding between species. He spoke of the children on Titan 7, who would never grow up. He spoke of the families on Europa, erased from existence. His voice was steady but his words carried the weight of unimaginable loss. The Council had broken the line. They had come to human homes, touched human families, killed human children. There was no negotiation possible with genocidal monsters. There was only one response left. Humanity had tried peace and been murdered for it. They had offered cooperation and been slaughtered. Now they had one choice: fight with everything they had, or accept extinction. The Council expected humanity to die quietly, to submit and disappear from the galaxy. They expected humans to be weak and frightened. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The vote was unanimous. Every delegate, every representative, every leader chose the same path. Humanity would not surrender. Humanity would not die quietly. They would activate Project Prometheus. They would unleash weapons that broke every law. They would fight with unrelenting fury until either the Council was defeated or humanity was extinct. There would be no half measures. No mercy. No forgiveness. President Kyung-soo addressed the entire human species. He told them what was coming. He told them about the weapons, about the choice, about the war that would reshape the galaxy. He made no apologies for what humanity was about to become. The Council had forced this transformation. They had turned peaceful explorers into desperate warriors. They had broken the line, and now they would face the consequences. Captain Daeho returned to his ship with new orders. The Horizon would be decommissioned and he would take command of a new vessel, the UES Retribution. It was the first warship built with Prometheus technology, designed for one purpose: to make the Council bleed. His crew looked at him with grim determination. They had all lost someone. They all knew what was at stake. The war for humanity's survival had begun, and they would show the galaxy what humans were capable of when pushed beyond all limits. The Mariana Trench had always been one of Earth's deepest mysteries. Now it held humanity's greatest secret. Facility Omega sat 7 miles below the ocean surface, hidden from satellites and sensors. For 20 years, Dr. Hygiene and her team had worked in absolute secrecy, developing weapons that would horrify the peaceful humanity of the past. But the past was dead now, buried with 3 million souls on Titan 7. Hygiene stood in the main laboratory, watching her life's work come to fruition. The Galactic Council relied on technology that was ancient, refined over thousands of years. Their weapons were powerful but predictable. Their tactics were proven but rigid. They followed rules and traditions that made them strong but inflexible. Humanity's advantage was not in raw power but in creativity, in willingness to break every rule, in capacity to innovate when facing extinction. The nanite swarms were the first weapon. Billions of microscopic machines, each one smaller than a blood cell, programmed to recognize and dissolve any known hull material. Released near an enemy ship, they would spread like a plague, eating through armor and systems. The Council had nothing like them because their ancient laws forbade self-replicating technology. They feared losing control. Humanity feared extinction more than loss of control. The quantum disruptor bombs were the second weapon. They operated on principles that violated the Council's understanding of physics. When detonated, they would tear apart the bonds that held matter together at the subatomic level. Ships caught in the blast would simply cease to exist, their atoms scattered across light years. It was a horrible weapon, but the Council had shown no mercy to human colonies. Humanity would return that favor. The crown jewel of Project Prometheus was the AI combat system. Every species in the galaxy had artificial intelligence, but they all followed the same rule: AI could assist but never command. It was a religious taboo for most species, a deeply held belief that machines should not make life and death decisions. Humanity had no such beliefs. Their AI pilots learned and adapted in real time, making combat decisions faster than any biological mind. Each battle made them smarter, deadlier, more efficient. Commander Sook led the special operations team that would deploy these weapons. He was a veteran of Earth's military, trained in tactics that the Council would never understand. Asymmetric warfare, guerrilla strikes, suicide missions if necessary. His team included the best soldiers humanity had, men and women who had lost everything to the Council and wanted nothing more than revenge dressed as justice. Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution for the first time. The ship was beautiful and terrifying, bristling with weapons that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. His crew had transferred from the Horizon, Commander Jiwoo as tactical officer, pilot Bo Ra who could fly through asteroid fields blindfolded, and Chief Engineer Jae-sung who understood the Prometheus technology better than anyone except Hygiene herself. Their mission was simple: make the Council bleed. Show them that humanity would not die quietly. Prove that humans could fight and win against impossible odds. Admiral Hannah had planned the strategy carefully. They would appear weak, scattered, desperate. They would lure the Council into a trap and, then, strike with overwhelming force. It was a gamble. If it failed, Earth itself would be the next target. The Council's Third Fleet moved toward Proxima Centauri, where human forces appeared to be in disarray. The fleet was massive, dozens of warships, hundreds of support vessels, thousands of fighters. They came to crush the last human resistance outside the solar system. Their commander was a war master from the Krell Dominion, a species that had served the Council for centuries. He was arrogant and confident. Humanity was primitive, weak, already defeated. This would be a simple cleanup operation. The human fleet waited near Proxima, ships clustered together as if preparing for desperate last stand. Admiral Hannah watched from her command center on Earth, calculating every second. The Council fleet closed to firing range, weapons charging. The War Master gave the order to attack. That was when everything changed. The asteroid belt around Proxima had been seeded with nanite swarms weeks ago. They activated simultaneously, clouds of microscopic death that swept through the Council's Vanguard. Ships began to dissolve from the outside in, hulls failing, systems dying, crews screaming as their vessels fell apart around them. The War Master watched in horror as his front line simply ceased to exist. Then, the quantum disruptors detonated. Hidden mines throughout the formation triggered in sequence. Ships vanished in flashes of impossible light, their atoms torn apart and scattered. The careful formation of the Council fleet became chaos. Captains tried to retreat, to reform, to understand what was happening. They had no time. The AI drone fighters launched from hidden positions, thousands of them, swarming like angry insects. The drones were small, fast, and ruthlessly efficient. They learned from every engagement, adapting to enemy tactics in real time. Council point defense systems shot down hundreds, but thousands remained. They targeted engines, weapons, life support. They worked in perfect coordination, overwhelming defenses through sheer numbers and inhuman precision. The Council fighters launched to intercept but found themselves outmaneuvered by machines that never hesitated, never feared, never made mistakes born of emotion. Captain Deho led the retribution through the chaos. His ship cut through the enemy formation like a blade, weapons firing with devastating accuracy. Ji-Woo coordinated the attack perfectly, identifying weak points and exploiting them. Bo-Are flew like the ship was an extension of her body, dodging return fire that would have destroyed any other vessel. Jae-Sung kept the exotic systems running at beyond maximum capacity, pushing the technology to its absolute limits. The War Master's flagship tried to retreat. Deho would not allow it. The Retribution pursued through the debris field, trading fire with the larger vessel. The Council ship was ancient and powerful, but the Retribution was new and deadly. Human weapons tore through shields that had protected against conventional attacks for centuries. The flagship's hull breached in multiple locations. Commander Suk and his team launched from the Retribution in boarding pods. They crashed through the breached hull and fought their way inside. The Krell warriors were large and strong, trained in combat for their entire lives. But Suk's team had something more powerful than training. They had nothing left to lose. They fought with the desperation of a species facing extinction, using weapons and tactics the Krell had never encountered. The battle through the flagship's corridors was brutal. Suk's team lost half their number reaching the command deck. But they reached it. The War Master stood surrounded by his honor guard, still believing in Council superiority even as his fleet burned around him. Suk gave him one chance to surrender. The War Master laughed and attacked. The fight was short. The Krell was strong but predictable, following ancient combat forms. Suk fought dirty, the way humans had always fought when outmatched. He used the environment, used deception, used tactics that had no honor but guaranteed victory. The War Master fell, his dying words expressing disbelief. Humanity had broken the ancient laws. They had used forbidden weapons and tactics. They had won. Captain Deho stood on the bridge as the last Council ship died. The Third Fleet was completely destroyed. Not a single vessel escaped. The debris field around Proxima would serve as a monument to humanity's fury. Ji-Woo ran the numbers. They had destroyed a force 10 times their size with minimal losses. The Prometheus weapons worked even better than predicted. But Deho knew this was only the beginning. The Council had dozens of fleets. This victory would make them angry, make them committed to humanity's complete destruction. The War Master was right about one thing: humanity had broken the ancient laws. They had used technology and tactics the galaxy considered forbidden. They had crossed lines that other species would not cross. President Kyung-soo addressed the galaxy through every communication channel humanity could access. He broadcast footage of the Battle of Proxima, showing Council ships dissolving and breaking apart. He showed the debris field. He showed humanity's victory. Then, he delivered a message that would echo across civilized space. Humanity did not seek conquest. They did not want the Council's territory or resources. But, they would have justice for the murdered millions. They would have retribution for the destroyed colonies. And, they would never, ever forgive. The Council had come to human worlds and killed human families. They had broken the line. Now humanity would break them. The message ended with a simple declaration: humanity was done being prey. The galaxy had created a predator and would now learn to fear it. The Council could surrender and face trial for genocide, or they could continue fighting and face extinction. Those were the only options. There would be no negotiation, no compromise, no mercy. The galaxy reeled from the broadcast. The Council's member species watched in shock as their third fleet was completely destroyed by primitives who should have been easy victims. Some species began questioning their leadership. Others demanded escalation. But, all of them understood that something fundamental had changed. Humanity was not the weak species the Council had believed them to be. They were something far more dangerous. They were survivors who refused to die quietly. The Galactic Council chamber had stood for 10,000 years, a symbol of order and authority in the galaxy. Now it erupted in chaos. The 12 species that formed the Council screamed at each other in dozens of languages, their unity shattered by humanity's impossible victory at Proxima. The Vextari Empress demanded total war, her crystalline form glowing with rage. She wanted to deploy the ancient world burner fleet, weapons so terrible they had not been used in millennia. The Krell Dominion mourned their war master and called for vengeance against the humans who dared use forbidden weapons. But, not all Council members agreed. The younger species, those who had joined the Council more recently, saw the situation differently. The Solari Collective and the Aquos Federation argued for immediate ceasefire. They pointed out that humanity had not attacked first. The Council had attempted genocide, and humanity had responded. Perhaps the real monsters were not the humans but the Council itself. The debate raged for days. Ambassador Yuna watched from the shadows. She was humanity's new representative, sent to replace the murdered Taeyang. She worked in secret, meeting with dissenting voices at neutral stations far from Council authority. A Solari scholar provided her with crucial intelligence. The Council's high command was planning a devastating attack on Earth itself using a fleet of 50 dreadnoughts. They would crack the planet like they had cracked Titan 7, erasing humanity's homeworld from existence. Meanwhile, Dr. Hygiene made a breakthrough that would change everything. Her team had been analyzing captured Council ships from the Battle of Proxima. They discovered something remarkable: the entire Council fleet operated on a centralized quantum communication network. Every ship, every station, every command center was connected through a single system. It was elegant and efficient, allowing perfect coordination across vast distances. It was also a catastrophic weakness waiting to be exploited. If humanity could access that network, they could do more than intercept communications. They could feed false information, disrupt coordination, maybe even take control of Council systems. The advantage that made the Council powerful could be turned against them. But, there was a problem. The network's central hub was located deep in Council space, on the fortress world of Terminus Prime. It was the most heavily defended location in the galaxy, protected by automated defense grids that had never been breached in recorded history. Captain Deho volunteered to lead the mission. It was suicide, and everyone knew it. But, if they could reach that hub, they could blind the Council fleet and buy Earth precious time. Admiral Hannah approved the mission with tears in her eyes. Commander Ji Woo would remain on Earth, coordinating the attack from headquarters. Deho would take his best people, Commander Suk, Pilot Bo Ra, Engineer Jae Sung, and a new addition to the team. Lieutenant Sun. He was a xenolinguistics expert, someone who understood alien languages and systems better than any other human. She was young and brilliant, with a gift for understanding how alien minds worked. She could interface with Council technology in ways that would take others weeks to learn. For this mission, her skills would be essential. She accepted the assignment knowing she probably would not return. They took the Shadow of Titan, a stealth corvette named for the first destroyed colony. The ship was small and fast, equipped with cloaking technology humanity had developed by studying captured Council stealth fields. It was not perfect, but it would help them slip through enemy territory. They had captured Council transponders and false identity codes. The plan was to pretend to be a Council supply ship until they reached Terminus Prime. The journey took 3 weeks. They passed through heavily patrolled sectors, using every trick Hannah and Jiwoo had devised. When challenged by a Council patrol, Sun-hee spoke perfect Krell dialect and provided authentication codes stolen from captured databases. Boare's flying skills saved them multiple times, navigating through sensor nets with centimeters to spare. Jae-sung kept the exotic stealth systems running despite them never being tested at such distances. Reaching Terminus Prime, they found something far worse than expected. The fortress was massive, a planet-sized installation covered in weapons and shields. Automated defense systems covered every approach. But that was not the worst part. As Sun-hee hacked into the outer network systems, she discovered the truth. Terminus Prime was not just a communication hub. It was a weapon. The Council had been developing a device capable of creating a localized supernova. It could trigger a star to explode, destroying everything in the entire system. Earth was the target. The weapon was scheduled to activate in 72 hours. The Council had decided that humanity's defiance warranted complete annihilation. They would burn Earth's sun and erase every human from existence. Daeho faced an impossible choice. They could destroy the communication hub and blind the Council fleet, giving humanity a massive tactical advantage. Or they could try to stop the supernova weapon and save Earth. They did not have time or resources to do both. If they destroyed the hub, Earth would die. If they stopped the weapon but left the hub intact, the Council fleet would maintain perfect coordination in the coming battles. The decision took him 3 seconds. Earth's survival mattered more than tactical advantage. They would stop the weapon even if it meant giving up the chance to cripple the Council's coordination. He ordered the team to find a way inside the fortress. Boare flew the Shadow through a debris field, using wrecked ships as cover. They found a maintenance entrance that the automated systems had not properly sealed. The infiltration was a nightmare. Terminus Prime security was beyond anything they had encountered. Automated defense systems filled the corridors with death. Laser grids, plasma turrets, hunter drones that never stopped until their target was dead. The team fought through it all, losing soldiers with every corridor. Jae-sung sacrificed himself to disable a power core, creating an opening for the rest to advance. He died buying them 5 minutes. They pushed deeper into the fortress. Sun-hee guided them through the alien architecture, reading Council technical language at a glance. She interfaced with access panels and disabled security systems, her fingers flying over alien controls. But the automated defenses adapted to their presence. Hunter drones swarmed their position. Sun-hee covered the team's retreat, firing a captured Council weapon until she was overwhelmed. Daeho carried her dying body as they ran for the weapon chamber. She had been hit multiple times, her blood leaving a trail on the fortress floor. She looked up at him with fading eyes and whispered words he would never forget, "Make it mean something." Then, she was gone, another life sacrificed for humanity's survival. Commander Suk and Daeho reached the weapon's core with minutes to spare. The device was enormous, a terrible machine designed to murder stars. They tried to destroy it but the controls were shielded, protected by systems they could not breach in time. Then, Sook found another option. They could not destroy the weapon, but they could reprogram it. Sun-Hee's access codes were still in the system. Using her work, they changed the weapon's targeting parameters. Instead of Earth's sun, they entered new coordinates, the Council's home systems. All 12 of them. The weapon would not fire now, but it was armed and ready. If the Council attacked Earth, their own worlds would burn. It was insurance written in the threat of mutual destruction. They escaped Terminus Prime as the fortress entered lockdown. Alarms screamed through the facility as the Council discovered the intrusion. Boare pushed the shadow beyond its limits, flying through weapons fire that should have destroyed them. The stealth corvette limped back toward human space, damaged but intact. Half the team was dead, but the mission was complete. Captain Deho sent a transmission to the Council High Command. It showed exactly what they had done to the supernova weapon. The footage was clear, the weapon was retarget and armed. If Earth burned, the Council's homeworlds would burn with it. 12 civilizations would face extinction alongside humanity. The choice was theirs, choose peace or choose mutual destruction. The message ended with Deho standing in the weapon chamber, Sun-Hee's blood still on his uniform. "You tried to burn our home," he said directly to the camera. "You planned to murder our entire species, erase us from existence. Now your homes hang in the balance. Choose peace, or choose extinction. Those are your only options. We will not negotiate. We will not compromise. We will not forgive. But, we will give you this one chance to stop the killing." The transmission reached the Council within hours. The effect was immediate and devastating. The unified front that had survived 10,000 years shattered completely. The Solari Collective and Aquos Federation withdrew from the Council entirely, refusing to participate in mutual suicide. 3 other species declared neutrality, unwilling to risk their homeworlds for the Council's vendetta against humanity. Only the hardline faction remained, the Vextari and Krell, along with a few other species who believed that humanity must be destroyed regardless of cost. They controlled less than half the Council's original military strength, but they were fanatic in their commitment. The Vextari Empress made a declaration that chilled everyone who heard it: humanity would be destroyed even if it meant destroying everything else. Some wars, she claimed, were worth fighting to extinction. On Earth, Admiral Hanna began coordinating with Ambassador Yuna to formalize alliances with the breakaway species. The enemy of their enemy was their friend, at least for now. Minister Hygiene shared limited Prometheus technology as a gesture of goodwill. The Solari and Aquos would help humanity survive the coming storm. President Kyung-soo ensured that the most devastating human weapons remained exclusive. Trust only went so far. Captain Deho returned to Earth a hero and a haunted man. He had saved humanity but lost half his team doing it. Sun-Hee, Jae-sung, and 6 others who would never see home again. Their names would be carved on the memorial next to his sister Eun-ji. He stood before that memorial and made a promise to the dead: their sacrifice would mean something. Humanity would survive. The Council would pay for every murdered soul. The alliance changed everything. The Solari Collective and Aquos Federation formally withdrew from the Galactic Council, declaring they would not participate in genocide. 3 other species followed within days, leaving the hardline faction with less than half their original strength. But, what they lost in numbers, they gained in fanaticism. The Vextari Empress and the Krell Dominion were determined to destroy humanity even if it cost them everything. Ambassador Yuna worked tirelessly to strengthen the new alliance. She met with Solari leaders, beings of crystalline structure who communicated through light patterns. She negotiated with Aquos diplomats, an aquatic species whose ships were filled with water rather than air. Both species had watched the Council commit atrocities for centuries but lacked the courage to oppose it. Humanity's defiance gave them hope that the old order could be challenged. Minister Hygiene shared Prometheus technology carefully. She gave the Solari access to AI combat systems, knowing their light-based communication was compatible with human artificial intelligence. She provided the Aquos with nanite technology that could function in liquid environments. But the quantum disruptors and the most devastating weapons remained human secrets. Trust had to be earned, not freely given. Captain Deho and Commander Jiwoo trained the Allied forces in human combat doctrine. The Solari learned quickly, their crystalline minds processing information at incredible speeds. Combined with human AI, they became devastating opponents. The Aquos provided intelligence on underwater council facilities and shared their expertise in viral cyber weapons. Together, the alliance became something the council had never faced: coordination between multiple species using combined technology. But Commander Suk brought troubling news. Intercepted communication suggested the hardline faction was preparing something terrible. Analysis of encrypted council transmissions mentioned a weapon called the Void Engine, something that made the supernova device look primitive. The details were scarce, but the implications were horrifying. If the council could not conquer humanity, they would erase them from existence itself. The target became clear when council fleet movements were detected. New Horizon, humanity's largest colony in the Andromeda sector, was about to be attacked. The colony held 8 million people, more than any other human settlement outside Earth. Governor Young-sik received the warning and refused evacuation orders. 8 million people could not be moved in time, and abandoning the colony would send a message of weakness. They would stay and fight. The colony transformed into a fortress. Every civilian participated in the defense preparations. Construction teams built shield generators and weapon emplacements. Scientists modified Prometheus weapons to work with the colony's defense grid. Dr. Mi Young, the colony's chief scientist, worked with Hygiene's team on Earth to adapt the nanite swarms and quantum disruptors to stationary defensive positions. New Horizon would not fall easily. General Sangwoo arrived to command the defense garrison. He was old and tired but refused to sit safely on Earth while 8 million people faced death. His experience and tactical genius would be needed. He coordinated with Young-sik to prepare every possible defense. The colony's tunnels were stocked with supplies for months-long siege. Evacuation shelters were reinforced to survive anything short of planet-cracking weapons. The Vextari fleet arrived 6 days after the initial warning. It was massive: 47 dreadnoughts, 300 cruisers, and countless support vessels. The Vextari Empress commanded personally from her flagship Eternal Radiance, determined to make an example of humanity's defiance. Her strategy was simple and brutal: annihilation through attrition. She would pound the colony's shields until nothing remained. The bombardment began immediately. Vextari energy weapons hammered New Horizon's shields with relentless fury. The colony's defenses held, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. The shields would fail eventually, and, when they did, 8 million people would die. Young-sik coordinated the defense from the command center, managing power distribution and shield rotation to maximize their survival time. Human fighters launched from the colony's hangars. Boare led the squadrons in desperate strikes against the enemy fleet. They flew through impossible fire, targeting weak points on council ships. The suicide runs claimed heavy casualties but damaged enough enemy vessels to slow the bombardment. Every minute gained was another minute for reinforcements to arrive, another minute for 8 million people to live. The battle lasted 6 days. The Vextari hammered the colony without pause, refusing to give defenders any rest. Sleep became impossible. Food was eaten cold while manning weapons. The shields flickered and failed in sections, requiring constant repairs under fire. Dr. Mi Young's nanite swarms proved less effective against Vextari crystalline hulls, forcing Jiwoo on Earth to devise new tactics in real time. On the 4th day, salvation arrived. Captain Deho's retribution led the Allied fleet into the battle. Human ships fought alongside Solari vessels that glowed like stars. Aquos cruisers deployed cyber weapons that spread through Council systems like viruses. The tide of battle shifted as fresh forces engaged the exhausted Vextari fleet. But, the cost had been terrible. New Horizons' population had suffered thousands of casualties from partial shield failures. General Sangwoo died on the 5th day defending the primary power station. A Vextari strike team breached the colony's outer defenses and fought their way toward critical infrastructure. Sangwoo led the defense personally, refusing to let the power station fall. He held the line long enough for reinforcements to arrive, but took fatal wounds in the process. His last words were orders to protect the civilians at any cost. Dr. Mi-young was killed on the 6th day when the Science District took a direct hit. A lucky shot from a Vextari cruiser penetrated the shields and struck the research facilities. The explosion killed hundreds of scientists and technicians. Mi-young had been coordinating defensive weapons from her laboratory. She died instantly, her brilliant mind silenced mid-calculation. The battle became a grinder. Ships burned on both sides. The space around New Horizon filled with debris and frozen bodies. The Vextari would not retreat, and humanity would not surrender. Both sides were committed to fighting until complete victory or total destruction. The Empress believed her superior numbers would eventually win. She had not accounted for human desperation. Captain Deho made a brutal calculation. The only way to end this battle was to break the enemy's will completely. That meant targeting the Empress herself. The Eternal Radiance was the most heavily defended ship in the galaxy, but it was also the key to Vextari morale. If the Empress fell, her fleet would collapse. It was a desperate gamble, but desperation was humanity's natural state now. The Retribution charged through the battle toward the flagship. Jiwoo coordinated the attack from Earth, feeding targeting data and tactical analysis. Boare flew the ship through hell itself, dodging fire that would have vaporized lesser vessels. The Allied fleet created an opening, sacrificing ships to clear a path. Jae-sung pushed the engines beyond safe limits, knowing they would burn out but not caring. They reached the Eternal Radiance and locked on. Commander Suk led the boarding party, launching from the Retribution in assault pods. They crashed through the flagship's shields and breached the hull. Inside, they found themselves fighting elite Vextari warriors whose crystalline bodies were nearly indestructible. Conventional human weapons barely scratched them. Suk's team adapted. Jae-sung had taught them well before his death, think like humans, which meant think like survivors. They used the Vextari's rigid tactics against them, employing asymmetric warfare. They set traps, used false retreats, and attacked from unexpected angles. They targeted joints where crystal segments connected. They used explosives not to destroy but to blind and disorient. Slowly, brutally, they fought their way toward the command throne. Captain Deho followed Suk's team, fighting through corridors filled with the dying and dead. The Vextari fought with honor and courage, but humans fought with desperation and rage. Every human soldier knew what the Empress had ordered done to the colonies. They knew about Titan 7, about the millions of murdered civilians. They fought not for glory but for revenge. The throne room was vast and beautiful, crystalline walls reflecting light in patterns that hurt human eyes. The Empress sat on her throne, ancient and terrible. She was surrounded by her honor guard, the finest warriors the Vextari had ever produced. Deho and Suk stood before her, exhausted and bloody, but unbroken. The Empress spoke in perfect human language. She revealed the truth that humanity had begun to suspect. The Council had ruled for 10,000 years by crushing any species that showed potential to rival them. Dozens of civilizations had been destroyed before they could threaten Council supremacy. Humanity's crime was not aggression but excellence. They advanced too quickly, innovated too freely, dreamed too boldly. We destroy any who might challenge our supremacy, she said calmly. It is the natural order. The strong rule. The weak submit or perish. You should have submitted. Daeho looked at this ancient being who had ordered the death of millions without remorse. He thought of Un-ji, of Sun-hee, of Sang-woo and Mi-young and all the others who had died. He thought of the 8 million people who had survived New Horizon only because humans refused to accept the natural order. Then, the natural order dies today, he said simply. The Empress smiled, a terrible expression on her crystalline face. She touched a control on her throne. The void engine, hidden in the flagship's core, activated. If she could not win, she would take everyone with her. The device would erase the entire sector from existence, destroying New Horizon, both fleets, and everything else in the area. 8 million people would die. The human and allied fleets would die. The Vextari fleet would die. But humanity's largest colony would be erased, and that was worth any price to her. The void engine activated with a sound that should not exist. Reality itself began screaming. Space twisted inward, pulling everything toward a point of absolute darkness. The colony, the fleets, the stars themselves started to collapse into nothing. The Empress laughed, believing her final victory was assured. If she could not destroy humanity through conquest, she would erase them from existence itself. Captain Daeho felt the pull of non-existence trying to tear his ship apart. The Retribution's hull groaned under impossible forces. On Earth, Commander Jiwoo watched her sensors going insane, showing readings that violated every law of physics. New Horizons' 8 million people looked up at skies that were turning black, reality itself dying around them. They had minutes before complete erasure. But, humanity had not survived this long by accepting fate. Jiwoo analyzed the void engine's readings from Earth, her brilliant mind racing through impossible calculations. She found something. The engine created a temporary dimensional gateway as it collapsed space. If they could overload the device, they might reverse the polarity. Turn a weapon of annihilation into something else entirely. It was insane, probably impossible, but humanity had built its survival on impossible victories. She transmitted the data to Daeho. He understood immediately. They would not run from the void. They would fly into it. They would weaponize the weapon that was meant to destroy them. It was the most human response possible, when faced with certain death, attack. The Retribution and 3 allied vessels turned toward the collapsing space. They accelerated directly into the dimensional gateway, into the heart of the destruction. The ship's hulls screamed under forces that should have torn them apart instantly. Boare flew through collapsing reality itself, her hands steady on controls that barely responded. The ship crossed the event horizon of impossible physics. Commander Suk and his remaining team fought through the dying flagship toward the void engine's core. The Empress tried to stop them but fell to Suk's blade, her crystalline body shattering. With her last breath, she promised that humanity would still die. The engine was beyond stopping. Even destroying it now would only accelerate the collapse. Suk reached the engine room and found something unexpected. The void engine was not just a machine. It was powered by the imprisoned consciousness of an ancient species, something the Council had destroyed millennia ago. The being's mind had been trapped inside the device, forced to power the weapon that would destroy others as it had been destroyed. It was the ultimate cruelty. The consciousness reached out to Suk, showing him the truth through images that burned into his mind. The Council had committed genocide dozens of times over their 10,000-year reign. Entire civilizations had been erased from history, their very existence forgotten. The void engine was built from the last remnant of one such species, their final survivor imprisoned and tortured for weapons research. Suk made a choice that would reshape the galaxy. He did not destroy the engine. He freed the imprisoned consciousness. Using Sunhee's access codes that were still in his equipment, he broke the chains that held the ancient being captive. It was a desperate gamble. The freed consciousness could finish what the Empress started, erasing everything out of rage. Or it could choose something different. The last memory, as it called itself, took control of the void engine. Reality stabilized. The collapsing space stopped pulling everything toward oblivion. Then, the impossible happened. The gateway became something new, not destruction but revelation. The last memory used the engine's power to broadcast truth across the entire galaxy. Every species, every world, every ship received the transmission simultaneously. They saw 10,000 years of council atrocities. Every genocide, every suppressed species, every lie about protecting galactic peace while enforcing tyranny through extinction. They saw the dozens of civilizations that had been destroyed for showing potential. They saw the truth the Council had hidden for millennia. The galaxy watched humanity's war in new context. These humans were not aggressive primitives threatening galactic order. They were survivors of an attempted genocide, fighting against an empire built on the graves of countless extinct species. Humanity's crime was the same crime dozens of others had committed. They advanced too quickly, dreamed too boldly, refused to accept limits imposed by those who feared competition. The revelation shattered what remained of Council authority. Their fleets mutinied. The Krell Dominion's own ships turned on their leadership, arresting commanders for crimes against existence. The Vextari Empire collapsed into civil war as citizens rebelled against the Empress's dynasty. Species that had served the Council for centuries discovered they had been complicit in genocide after genocide. Commander Sook and, the last memory returned through the dimensional gateway. The ancient consciousness had expended its remaining energy showing the galaxy the truth. It thanked humanity for its freedom, for breaking chains that had held it for thousands of years. It offered a final gift, coordinates to Council archive worlds where the histories of extinct species were stored. Names, cultures, achievements, all carefully preserved as trophies by the Council. Remember us, the last memory said to Sook. Remember all of us who were destroyed. And, build something better than what came before. Then, it faded, finally, at peace after millennia of torture. The void engine shut down permanently, its power source gone. The dimensional gateway closed. Reality returned to normal. New Horizon was saved. The 8 million people who had faced erasure from existence survived. The human and allied fleets survived. Only the Vextari fleet was destroyed, their flagship collapsed and, their empress dead. The war ended not with a final battle but, with a reckoning. The Galactic Council dissolved as member species withdrew in shame and horror. What replaced it was something new, the Galactic Assembly, a true democratic union where every species had equal voice regardless of age or power. Captain Deho addressed the first session, standing where the Council had once pronounced humanity's death sentence. He spoke of the billions who had died. He spoke of Titan, 7 and the millions murdered there. He spoke of Eun-ji, Sun-hee, Jae-sung, Sang-woo, Mi-young, and countless others who had fallen fighting for survival. He spoke of the last memory and the dozens of extinct species whose only crime was excellence. Then, he proposed the Titan Accords, named for the first destroyed colony. The principles were simple. No species shall be exterminated for their potential. No civilization shall be quarantined without just cause. No empire shall rule through fear. And every species has the right to defend their homes with unrelenting fury if these principles are violated. The Accords would prevent what happened to humanity from ever happening again. They would honor the dead by protecting the living. The galaxy accepted. Species after species signed the Titan Accords. Even former council members who had attempted to destroy humanity admitted their crimes and pledged to build something better. The old order was dead, killed by its own cruelty and humanity's refusal to die quietly. Ambassador Yuna became the first Secretary General of the Galactic Assembly. She would ensure that democracy replaced tyranny, that cooperation replaced domination. Admiral Hannah oversaw formation of a combined defense force, mixing technologies and tactics from dozens of species. No single civilization would hold military supremacy again. Minister Hygiene led the effort to recover and honor the extinct species. The archive worlds revealed dozens of lost civilizations, their histories preserved as council trophies. She built monuments across the galaxy to those who had been erased, ensuring they would be remembered forever. The last memory's sacrifice would not be wasted. Captain Deho retired from military service. He had fought enough. He took the retribution on one final voyage to the ruins of Titan 7. The debris field still orbited where the moon had been, 3 million graves floating in space. He placed a memorial beacon there, programmed to broadcast its message forever. The message was simple. Here lived 3 million souls. They died because they dared to reach for the stars. They died because tyranny fears potential. Humanity remembers them. Humanity honors them. And humanity ensures their deaths meant something. Never again will fear rule the galaxy. Never again will peaceful people be slaughtered for imagined threats. This is humanity's promise. This is the galaxy's promise. Break the line again and face unrelenting fury. Commander Ji-woo joined him at the memorial. They stood together in silence, remembering those they had lost. Finally, she asked the question that haunted them both, "Do you think we did the right thing?" Daeho thought of Eun-ji, who believed in peace and died for it. He thought of Sun-hee, who gave her life to save Earth. He thought of Jae-sung, Sang-woo, Mi-young, and all the others. He thought of the 8 million who survived New Horizon because humans refused to accept extinction. He thought of the last memory and the extinct species who would be remembered now instead of forgotten. "We did the only thing we could," he said. "We survived. We fought back. We made them remember that humanity does not break. We bend," Ji-woo said softly. "Then, we strike back twice as hard," Daeho finished. Together, they returned to Earth. The war was over. Humanity had won not just survival but the right to shape the galaxy's future. The Galactic Council had broken the line, touching human homes and murdering human families. They learned too late what happened when humanity responded with unrelenting fury. The lesson cost them everything. 50 years passed. An aging Captain Daeho, now an admiral and respected galactic ambassador, stood at the Titan Memorial on the anniversary of the war's beginning. Millions attended across thousands of worlds, representatives of species that had been enemies and now were friends. His sister's name was carved in stone alongside 3 million others. "They broke the line," he said to the assembly. "And we taught the galaxy a lesson it will carry forever. Not that humanity is cruel, but that humanity is unbreakable. Not that we seek war, but that we will wage it without hesitation when our homes are threatened. Not that we are the strongest species, but that we will become whatever we must to protect those we love." He placed a flower at Eun-ji's name, his hand trembling with age. "The galaxy is better because we fought. The Titan Accords have prevented 17 conflicts. 23 species who were marked for suppression now thrive. The extinct are remembered. The Council's crimes are taught as warning. And humanity stands as guardian, not ruler. We broke the line back. And, in breaking it, we freed the galaxy." The crowd of humans, Solari, Aquos, and hundreds of other species saluted as one. The memorial beacon continued broadcasting its message to the stars. Ships passing through the system heard it and remembered. Humanity's fury had not been vengeance. It had been justice. And the galaxy was reborn because of it. Young people from dozens of worlds studied at academies built on cooperation instead of domination. Scientists from hundreds of species worked together on projects that would have been impossible under council rule. The galaxy thrived in ways it never had during 10,000 years of tyranny. All because humanity had refused to die quietly when the council broke the line. Admiral Deho looked up at the stars his sister had loved. She had died believing in understanding between species. She never lived to see the peace her death helped create. But, the Galactic Assembly existed because humanity had fought with unrelenting fury. The Titan Accords protected countless species because humans had survived impossible odds. Unji's dream of cooperation had come true, born from the ashes of the war that killed her. The memorial beacon's message echoed across the cosmos. Humanity would never forgive the Council's crimes. But, they had transformed rage into justice, fury into protection, and desperation into hope. The galaxy would never forget what happened when peaceful people were pushed too far. And, humanity would never stop ensuring that the dead were remembered and the living were protected. The line had been broken. Humanity had responded. And, the galaxy was forever changed.